Hello everyone. Welcome to our video on derivatives of basic products and quotients. So we will have rules for derivatives of products and quotients. However, we always want to check to see if it's a basic one, because then it's easier to do with what we're going to do here in this video. All right, so for products, all we'll do is just multiply this out. So like in number one, we see we have a product. So all we'll do is just multiply it out, which often means we might need to FOIL. And then afterwards, we'll take the derivatives. If we have quotients, well, it depends on the way that it looks. If it's a monomial, so just a single term in the numerator, or denominator, I mean, we'll just rewrite it. And then if it's a more than one term in the denominator, we'll look to factor or even maybe use long division, but that's unlikely. Okay, so anyway, so for number one here, so we see we have a product. So all we really want to do is just FOIL, though. So our f of x, so if I FOIL this, I'd have 2x squared, and then minus 18x, and then positive 3 times x is positive 3x, and then positive 3 times negative 9 would be minus 27. And then I want to simplify, so f of x, so I see the middle terms I can combine, so it's 2x squared minus 15x minus 27. All right, so there was just simplifying it out, and then now in my blue, I'm going to show my derivative, f prime of x. Now let's just go through it and do the power rule. So 2 times 2 is 4, and then x is attached. Here we have our rule for linear, so this is just minus 15x here, which means its derivative is just get rid of the x, just minus 15. And then here we have the rule for a constant. The derivative of a constant is 0, so this is it. Okay, so a couple steps of simplifying made the derivative very easy. Okay, so on number 2, we see that we have the square root of x minus 1 all squared. Okay, because it's a minus inside. Okay, so remember if it's plus or minus inside parentheses getting squared like that, then we need to rewrite as an expanded form and then FOIL. Okay, so this really becomes y equals the square root of x minus 1 times itself. All right, and then when we FOIL this, well, I would have y is equal to square root of x times the square root of x. So those would just become x. Square root of x times negative 1 is negative square root of x. Negative 1 times square root of x is also negative square root of x. Negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. And then we see, well, very similar to above, the middle terms combined, we have y equals x minus, there's 2 of them, so minus 2 square root of x plus 1. All right, and then before we can finally do the derivative, I see, well, the square root of x, I would want to rewrite as a power, and it has a power of 1, and the root is 2, so 1 over 2 like that, and then now plus 1 at the end. Okay, so those were the steps to simplify, and then now we could do the derivative. Because it's y and x on the right, we usually write this as dy dx equals, the derivative of x would be 1. Okay, so because there's a 1 in front of that x, so remember our rule for these, if it's linear here, this x is to the first, then it is just rewrite the coefficient, so it's just 1. And then let's apply our rule for the power rule. So minus 2 is the 2 there. 1/2 will multiply it. And then we'll have x minus 1 from 1/2 would be negative 1/2. And then the derivative of the constant, the plus 1, is 0. Okay, so this is the derivative. And then our final step is to just simplify what we can. So we have dy dx is 1. The 2 and the 1/2 would cancel, so it's just minus x to the negative 1/2. There we go. Okay, and that's it. And if they said to change it back into a square root, we could. I'm going to leave it as is, though, for this problem. All right, and then in number 3, so those were our products. So that's our first bullet there. And then now we've got quotients. All right, so here we see it's a single term. So what we're going to do is rewrite each of these terms in the numerator over that single term. Okay, so we're going to rewrite it as v of t, is equal to t cubed over 2 square root t, and then minus 6t squared over 2 square root t, and then plus 2 over 2 square root t. All right, and then before we continue, well, the square root here, again, is probably better if we saw it as a power. So our v of t is t cubed over 2t to the 1/2 minus 6t squared over 2t to the 1/2, and then plus 2 over 2t to the 1/2. Okay, so I rewrote all of the bottoms as powers instead of radicals. And then now we'll apply our rules to simplify. All right, so the way that I'm going to write this, so our v of t, so there is a 1 in the first one there. So I do have 1 over 2, so it is just 1/2 that I'm going to write as the coefficient. And then now I'm using my rules for powers, where I would subtract these. Okay, so I'd have t, let's go ahead and show that. So I'd have t, so the powers subtract, so 3 minus 1/2 is going to be the power once we simplify. Okay, and then I have minus the 6 over 2, that is just going to, these just simplify. 6 over 2 is just 3. And then t squared divided by t to the 1/2, again, those would just subtract. And then the last one, I have 2 over 2 reduces to become just 1. And then t to the 1/2 down below, well, I can change that right now to make it t to the negative 1/2. And then this 1, I probably don't really need to write anymore. Okay, so one more thing that I'm simplifying. So I've got, so this looks like I might kind of crowd out this one. Let's go ahead and write it right here still. Okay, so I've got 1/2 t. Now 3 minus 1/2, if we need scratch work, that's fine. I'm thinking 3 over 1 would become 6 over 2 minus 1/2 would be 5/2. Okay, let me make sure I can see that 5 a little bit better. That's not better. Okay, one more try. We got it. Okay, that's a little better. Okay, so I've got 1/2 t to the 5/2, and then minus 3t. 2 minus 1/2, would that be 4/2 minus 1/2? So that's going to be 3/2. And then plus t to the negative 1/2. Okay, so now it's ready to go. So all these steps were just simplifying our original v of t, and then now we can do its derivative. So I'm going to show that in blue. I'm going to put it right here. I think I'll have enough room. Okay, so sorry about the room. Okay, so v prime of t, though, I have the 1/2 would times the 5/2. So the 5/2's coming down, and then I'd minus 1. So I have 1/2 times 5/2 t, and then 5/2 minus 1 would be 5/2 minus 2/2, which would give us 3/2. And then we have minus 3, and then the t to the 3/2, well, again, this 3/2 would multiply the 3, so 3/2, and then t, and then minus 1 from 3/2. Again, just some scratch work to the side. 3/2 minus 2/2 is 1/2. And if you don't need scratch work, fantastic. I'm just doing it to the side there real quick, so 1/2. And if a calculator can be used, just you could double check too if you have that. And then our last one, the negative 1/2 would multiply the 1 in the front, so it would be minus t. And then minus 1 from negative 1/2 would be negative 3/2. There we go. Okay, so it's all simplified, or we've done the derivative, and our final step now is to simplify. So v prime of t is, okay, so 1/2 times 5/2 would be 5/4, and then t to the 3/2, and then minus 3 times 3 is 9, so 9/2 t to the 1/2, and then minus, and that's all good, just minus t to the negative 3/2. There it is. Okay, so there we go. We got it. Okay, so notice on these problems, the multiplying and dividing, that's the bulk of the steps that needs to be done. And then afterwards, once it's simplified, we do our one step for the derivative, and then we just simplify the derivative. So that's it. Okay, one other. This time around, we see it's got multiple terms in the denominator. So often we'll try to factor. Okay, and let me go ahead and just block that off. Okay, so our h of w. Okay, so notice the denominator factors, there's a w in common. So we have w and then w minus 2. And then the numerator looks like it factors as well. It looks like it'd be w, so I need positive 3 and a negative 10 once it checks out. So I'm going to do guess and check. Okay, so I have w, I think it's going to be plus 5 and w minus 2. Okay, and quick check, w times w is w squared, minus 2w plus 5w is plus 3w. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. Good. Okay, and then now what happens is, well, look at this. W minus 2 would divide w minus 2. So those cancel each other out. So we have h of w is just w plus 5 over w. And then now that it's a single term down below, now it's a lot like number 3, where I can rewrite it. So h of w, I want to take that first w and divide it by the denominator w, and then plus the 5 divided by that w. So it's like the reverse of getting a common denominator. So I'm just breaking the fraction into separate parts. But now I can simplify. So sorry again, it's not the best organization, but I think it's fine. Let's put it up here. So h of w, w divided by w is 1. And then plus this portion, let's rewrite so it's a negative power. So it'd be plus 5w to the negative 1. And then now it's all simplified and ready for our derivative step. So h prime of w, the derivative of 1 is 0. And then now I can take the negative 1 and multiply the 5. And then afterwards, we'll minus 1. So I multiplied, and then now I'm going to minus 1. Negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2. And there we go. And so there's our derivative, and then now is simplify it. So h prime of w, I have negative 5. W to the negative 2. And then if they said this one, we can change real quick if needed. Negative 5 over w squared. Okay, so just whatever form that they might want. So these are the first one or the second one. They're both the same. They just look different. Okay, so that's all. So if you do have questions, please let me know. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.